Greetings, fellow travelers, and welcome to the Way of the Showman, where we view the world through the lens of showmanship. I am Captain Frodo, and I will be your host and guide along the way. I have spent a lot of time the last few weeks working on new material, and that is always a very interesting thing. It's so easy to just get busy procrastinating, even because all that stuff that you do, cleaning the house, I spotted spots on the wall that I needed to clean because we were moving out of our old house, and it needs to be done. It really does. But when it's time to create, it's time to create, and it's not easy to just sit down and do it and start writing or start practicing. So I have been forcing myself to not do anything at all, just go straight. Go straight into the room where I'm going to work and sit down, and then just force myself to open the document and immediately just start typing and getting into it, reading it and moving along on the next thing. I'm also working on some new skills that I hope will eventuate. That's a slow, long process. Turns out, as I got back to Norway, it's very creative being here. I don't have quite the same, working in Vegas, we're doing the same show all the time, or even with Sverige, we were doing the same show all the time. I didn't have any much room for variation or to do different acts, or so, certainly not midways through a season. So it was the same stuff. And I guess that's where a lot of this, the result of what I'm telling you here, and the whole project that we have here along the Way of the Showman, comes from me not needing to spend the time on directly creating my own acts. I spent a lot of time working with other artists and a lot of time working with the producers and that on shows or on the show or on the structure of it and everything. And I got to think about things a lot with given all that time that you get when you're on the road. So in a sense, that's what's left me here. But now in Norway here, I've been wanting to stay in one place here in a rather small town, so that also forces me to bring on new material, and all these ideas that I've had in the past of making shows, that's all now needing to come to fruition. So it's lovely getting out in my dad's garage and get on top of a rollerball line, doing the juggle and things with the handcuffs and all that stuff that I have been wanting to get just that I've imagined in my head. It's now all kind of happening, and if everything goes all the way that I hope, then at this festival at Vangen here in Haugesund, Norway, I will be premiering a whole bunch of new material at that festival, where we sort of set up an outdoor site in a little tent in the forest where all the kids and families can come in amongst the trees and find me, and I do shows in between the bands it's like 3 or 4 shows, but I want to do 3 or 4 half-hour shows of all different material and stuff, all new material and that. So that's a challenge that I have set myself, and to make that happen, I need to start cracking already now, even though we have a lot of time, because by the time I go and start working in the theme park again in circuses and doing 10 or 12 shows a week, I know that it is hard to find time to create and to rehearse other acts. So that's what I've been doing lately, and it's rewarding and challenging all at the same time. I'm also creating a show together with 2 excellent women. We're going to talk more about that at another time. Captain Frodo's family-friendly freak show will be performing in Rotterdam in the beginning of May, which I'm also very excited about. We're directing and performing in that show. So, well, without further ado, let's get cracking on today's topic, which is looking on. I've been advised that I should do this beforehand, because not everybody listens to the tag at the end. So if you do enjoy this podcast, please write us a review on iTunes or wherever you get a podcast. A couple of words about how much you enjoy it, or something that you enjoy about it, or even just clicking 5 stars really makes a difference. You can also support the podcast on Captain Frodo. No, you can support it on buymeacoffee.com/Captain Frodo, or you can just continue on listening, drop me a message, tell your friends. Thanks for coming along for another leg of the journey along the way of the showman. Looking. Now, the principal activity going on when an audience watches a showman is looking. The many look at the one. They also listen and partake emotionally in what they see, of course, but primarily the sense activity going on is seeing. This is, of course, the most prominent sense for us human beings, so much that we say, I see, when we understand something. So let's today explore the activity of looking and seeing. We'll explore it by talking about it in only sound and not seeing it, but let's see what we learn. As kids, we challenge each other to staring contests. We certainly did, and we'd lock eyes, and whomever looked away first or smiled had lost. And apparently children all over the world play this game. Different cultures have differences in what kind of staring behavior is socially acceptable, but being stared at repeatedly or for extended periods of time is almost universally experienced as distressing. This, of course, links back to stage fright and stuff that we talked about last episode. Looking at each other is a powerful social interaction. Meeting the eyes of an approaching stranger can quickly become threatening. If one is male and the other is female, the situation can be even more tense, and maintaining an unbroken gaze can be an act of aggression. A lion eyeing a zebra, locking, tracking, menacing, and similarly, posture, gesture, and language can serve to aggravate the situation. The tension will keep building until one breaks it off by looking away. The averted gaze can in itself mean something. It can be understood as submission, avoidance, disinterest, or any number of things. The tension can be broken if either the two smiles or gestures signaling friendly intentions. Either of the two people, though. Speaking can release or increase the tension depending on what's said and how it's said. And there are different kinds of looking. So just the way one looks can dramatically alter an interaction. If we look with a particular intent, if we look at something, it's not with a particular intent, but with particular intent. We look very hard or whatever. We look very, what can you call that? It's like you just look with intent. We call it to gaze. And this is a steady way of looking, which in a sense has more volition in it. If a person looks across a room, that is one kind of looking, and if they suddenly spot someone who catches their attention, it creates a subtle shift in the way of looking. As interest is kindled, the look turns into a gaze. And when we see something which excites admiration, curiosity, or interest, our look turns and becomes a gaze. This increased interest can either be pleasant or unpleasant, depending on the circumstances. So yeah, we are visual creatures. So why showing? Why not just telling? After all, this is a podcast. Is it not enough just to tell someone something and then let them imagine the rest? Apparently not. We respond much more to seeing things. It's why we have the expression seeing is believing, or I'll believe that when I see it, or even, as we just mentioned, I see, which is synonymous with I understand. Apparently we also remember things better when we have seen them as opposed to only hearing them. Anyway, human beings are visually oriented creatures. Our sense of sight is as pivotal for us as smell is for dogs. It's the most important of our senses, so much so that as much as half of our brain is directly or indirectly devoted to processing visual information, and apparently our brain can process visual information thousands of times faster than text. And of course, the brain's doing a whole lot of other things, and the areas that are doing sensory processing is not just doing that. But that said, I have what I said in the text is still stands. We're a species that likes to watch ourselves and the world, but most of all, we like watching others. We like to look, but with all this looking, it becomes very important to know what others are looking at. Who's looking at who? This desire is so strong for human beings that many scientists believe that it has shaped the very biology of our eyes. Compared with other primates, humans have eyes which makes it particularly easy to follow someone's gaze. The white around our pupils makes it obvious exactly what someone is looking at. We all know that if you're looking at someone and they catch you staring, it is going to take a whole lot of explaining to make them think you weren't looking, or make your partner believe that you weren't checking someone else out. Because looking is practically synonymous with paying attention to. Most of us who have children have at one point or another said, "Look at me when I'm talking to you." Why is it that we have evolved eyes that are such dead giveaways for what we are paying attention to? Here we come to something that scientists call cooperative eye theory. And then, this seems maybe a little bit abstract, but as we get to the root of it, I think, and we get through these ideas, I think we'll see how it makes this a cool thing to know about. Because of all the primate eyes, the human eyes are the most conspicuous. The colored iris and the black pupil stands out like a polka dot on an itsy-bitsy bikini at the center of our eye. Against the white sclera, which is the sclera is what the name of the white is in our eyes, the sclera background, it's impossible to hide the fact that we were looking at someone's itsy-bitsy bikini and not at her face. This is a major difference between a human being and any of the more than 200 other species of primates. Not even our closest cousins, the chimpanzees, have as much white in their eyes as us. So it's much easier for a male chimpanzee to hide the fact that he is looking at a female chimpanzee's bikini, as might have happened in a circus or vaudeville act of old. And chimpanzees can sneak a peek by using the old trick of pointing the head in one direction whilst actually having the eyes looking another way. And experiments show that this trick can more easily fool chimpanzees than human children, let alone adults, unless the person is wearing sunglasses. Indeed, when one human faces another human with sunglasses, experiments show that we too revert to the less accurate method of asserting the focus of another's attention by the angle of the head. Now, most primates have, on top of the no sclera, or little to no sclera, have dark fur and skin going right up to where their eyes begin, and the eyes have a more uniformly colored brownish sclera. All this makes the exact direction of the gaze more difficult to detect. And why is it like this for chimpanzees, but not us? Now, one hypothesis which I like is that it has to do with cooperation. And the idea goes like this, that our eyes evolved these characteristics because knowing what others are looking at gives us valuable information about what they are thinking and feeling, and what they might do next. When working together in a group and when teaching someone something, it's really valuable for others to see exactly what you are paying attention to. By more precisely knowing what someone is paying attention to, we can better share in that attention. Knowing what someone is looking at or paying attention to can tell us a great deal about them, and thus allow us to participate in that attentive process. This again improves our ability to align with others, which is great for cooperation, and a must in a shared and joint attention. Basically, our eyes are the way they are to make it easier to cooperate. That's the first point. And the second point that's interesting is the potential backside of advertising what you look at. Namely, that you give away clues to what you're thinking, and this could be exploited by others. If you have spotted a delicious bush with lots of berries or a tasty mushroom sometime back in the Stone Age, as your eyes fall on it, someone bigger and stronger than you will see what you're looking at and might beat you to it, either by getting to it first and eating it, or beating you up if you try to stop them. From this problem of possibilities for cheating or abuse, many researchers have concluded that the environment where the characteristics of our eyes have evolved must have been predominantly cooperative. The reasoning for this is that for this change to be beneficial, you need to be surrounded by others who don't want to take advantage of the information you display with your eyes. There would have to have been quite a high level of trust for this to be beneficial. We also know that biological change, the time it takes to create biological changes in our physical bodies, like changing the color of our sclera, like the white becoming white, this is not counted in hours or days, but in generations. It takes a long time. And this indicates that the level of trust and benefits of continued cooperation existed for very long spans of time. And I like to imagine that this cooperative past, I like that to be true. That's the past that I hope for. Other researchers have suggested that the white in the eye could advertise some kind of superior fitness and lack of eye disease and other diseases. But if this was true, I would imagine that if that was the advantage that was driving the change, it would be likely that other primates would have evolved a similar trait. And experiments have shown that children younger than 1 year old, which is before they can talk, already show that they pay closer attention to what our eyes are doing, as opposed to the angle and direction of the head, which is all that chimpanzees pay attention to. They can tell when you are looking at your phone and not at their stack of building blocks. This is not the case in chimpanzees or gorillas. This could mean that paying attention to the eyes is an evolved trait, not just culturally learned. So let's look at expressive eyes and language acquisition. Because the eyes are important tools in our arsenal of ways to communicate. Any or most shared activities, particularly if they happen when we are in relatively close proximity to each other, are made easier when we can signal our intent or read another person's intent. An utterance of any kind can also have its meaning altered with a particular look. For instance, in a gathering of a tribe, if two boys catch each other's eyes and one turns his eyes towards a girl at the other end or other side of the cave or whatever, and he smiles with his eyes, a whole story has been told. Being able to communicate exactly what one is looking at is invaluable in learning, in the learning process for an infant. Research with infant children show that as the infant begins to follow an adult's gaze and grasps that the two of them now are focusing on the same object, this greatly benefits the learning and development of language. While it's not fully understood how important vision is in learning to talk, it is a fact that older babies with typical vision pay particular attention to adults' mouths as they are talking. And in blind or visually impaired babies, it's often recommended to place their fingers on your lips as you are talking to them. Let them do a lot of touching of the people who are talking, which the infants can't see. This helps them associate the voice with the person who's talking and what they're talking about, or which object they are talking about or naming, because that becomes a whole lot more intuitive when you're able to follow someone's gaze. If you're naming an object in a room and you don't know about it, you need to sort of hold it in your hand to this. I didn't think I was going to fall down into this rabbit hole, but very interesting. Much of language is very abstract, and the ability to ascertain and follow someone's gaze is one aid that helps an infant grasp this exceedingly difficult challenge of not only learning a language like we learn a second language, since an infant does not only not speak your language, but has no conception of language at all. The infant need not only learn words, but needs to learn that there are such things as words, sentences, and language. Now our eyes are our windows to the outside world. They are literal holes in our skulls. We, our inner selves, our experiencing selves, can peer through these holes out of our cranium cage to catch 2 tiny glimpses of the outside world. Situated as they are on the front and center of our heads, beneath our large foreheads, they are the focus of a face. They are what we look at when we connect with another person. In this looking at others, we discover that eyes are so much more than holes to look out of. It's also a way to look into others. They are the windows of the soul, as people say. If we look at the eyes of another human, it provides us with glimpses of their inner thoughts and feelings, which in turn can help us predict their actions. In this way, the window we look out of is also a window into us. The eyes are busy. They're very busy parts of our body. They are simultaneously receiving and sending out information so that a glance becomes more than a glance. As we have already looked at with the story of the child hiding behind a poet's legs in the last episode, our faces and eyes reveal more of ourselves than we often think. This is something a showman has to be aware of as we face the others. Our inner life and our feelings are writ in and around our eyes for others to see. I think our experience of a performer as authentic, at least in part, comes from the fact that his face and eyes aligns with his intention and behavior. We've talked about this in an earlier episode too, that our face and eyes often reveals or betrays our deeper intentions. Like any poker player knows, it can be exceedingly difficult to hide our true emotions. The problem is compounded since it's not only that it is difficult to lie with our face. Reading faces is also something human beings are particularly skilled at and tuned to pay attention to. And for this reason, some professional poker players choose to wear sunglasses to help hiding their inner life from prying eyes. So now we're getting on to some quite practical advice that I read in the magician Juan Tamariz, who in his book The 5 Points of Magic, he describes looking at the audience as connecting imaginary threads between you and each of the audience members as you gaze at each other. As you lock eyes with your spectator, an invisible bond forms between you. And these strings need to be maintained. Once they have formed, they are solid enough, but they're not tightly woven and strong, so they slowly disintegrate when you look away. And as you look at another section of the crowd, the other threads begin their slow unraveling. So you need to use your eyes in a loving, wondering way, like an art connoisseur gazing around the Louvre. Each time you reconnect with eye contact, the thread heals and strengthens. On the other end of the spectrum, you'll find that if you stare too much at one person, the thread's tension can become too much, and the thread breaks as the audience member lowers their gaze. Then you know that you were too intense. Crazy eyes. Now, if the showman ignores the spectators who are watching him from behind, then he will lose them if there's people standing behind you. Either you lose them and they'll walk away, or just their interest and they'll start chatting. Or if the show's on the market square, they'll just walk away or continue their shopping. It is a rule oft repeated that a showman shouldn't turn his back on his crowd, and in fact to turn your back on someone in common parlance means to abandon, forsake, or to give up on someone or something. So it's not just the showman who shouldn't be turning his back on someone unless it is intentional. So that's all that I was going to say about looking and eyes and all of that. Probably more than most people would have needed to think about it. But I think it's interesting to bring up some of these evolutionary things, because after all, that is a particular interest of myself. And knowing why the eye is the way that it is has also been an interest of me. It connects together with the eye and the triangle and the very symbol of attention, paying attention to an I see and everything. So I thought it was valuable. And we come to an end of a surprisingly short episode of it's just a little trip this time. We had a long trip, deep trip, a lot to take in from the previous episode, and part of the reason why I'm splitting this up is that I have a tendency, if I have some subjects that are a little shorter, then I often end up talking about two different things in the same episodes, which is great for getting more content out quicker, and for the eager listeners out there to get more guidance along the way. But it can be sometimes more difficult to find stuff in the long run if you're going back and looking for episodes. So I'm going to split this and next week's topic up like this, and let's see how that goes. Maybe a shorter episode is a good thing. If you have any thoughts about it, send me an email on thewayoftheshowman@gmail.com. If not, you can you don't have to drop me a line. Drop a line to a friend instead. If you know a performer, even if you think that they aren't interested in this, just say, this is something that has been valuable for me, and tell them about The Way of the Shaman. And if you click subscribe or whatever it's called, and you follow the shows, then you'll get all the episodes downloaded, and I can see that the episode count goes up on the day that the episode comes out, which of course makes me personally very excited, even though I know by looking at the statistics and talking to people that a lot of people, you listen to an episode and maybe goes a few months, and all of a sudden you listen to 2 or 3 episodes when you're going for a drive or something. So, but anyway, be that as it may, you can support the podcast by subscribing on iTunes, or you can drop us a review, write us a review, click 5 stars. That would be amazing. And if not, then I'm just very absolutely delighted that you're listening. And thanks to all of those of you who have supported me financially, or just by sending an email with some thoughts and telling me how I have affected you. And to all those people that I have been collaborating with and are collaborating with, thanks a lot. I'm so glad that this podcast has made that a real thing, has realized it. Thank you so much. And that's all I have to say for this week. Until next time, take care of yourself and those you love. And I hope to see you along the way.